and welcome to NameHero. I'm Ryan, the founder and CEO. In this video tutorial, I'm going to talk about WordPress hosting versus web hosting and talk about what the difference is between it. So this is a question we get all the time here at NameHero when we're talking about pre-sales. What is WordPress hosting? How is that different from the web hosting that I see on NameHero? And how can I use WordPress to build my website? Or even maybe what is WordPress and how do I get started with it? So I hope at the end of this video, you're going to have a clear understanding of all those points, as well as what is the best web hosting solution to go with for your website. So first off, let's jump right on into it. Let's talk about what is WordPress. So I'm a big fan of Wikipedia. I use it all the time because I feel like it's the best place of information that's collaborated from all kinds of different sources. And the moderation team is pretty strict on stuff that goes up here because it's moderated by every individual around. So, there's a lot of good information on it. So anyways, we're talking about WordPress. So WordPress is a free and open source content management system. That's the simplest way to put it. If you're wanting to start a website, if you've never had one before, WordPress is by far the quickest and easiest way to get one online. That's easy to operate, it's very flexible, and it's also very good to customize your website with. So you don't have to have an old cookie cutter website. You can deploy WordPress and you can make a pretty powerful website with it. And the good thing I like about WordPress is it's flexible. So if you're an individual and you're just wanting to start a blog based around a specific topic or hobby, you can set up a WordPress blog and do it right then and there. If you have a website that's for a business and you're just wanting to put out information about your business, let's say you're a local plumber or a local contractor, or maybe you own a local laundry. You could easily build a website with WordPress built around that business, and you can have all your information about it. And you can also use plugins with WordPress that allow you to automate things, such as appointment booking, such as ordering online. So if you want to order products, you can do full force e-commerce, or you could even just schedule appointments or whatnot for your business. If you have a business that's just solely online selling, the e-commerce features are spectacular for WordPress. So pretty much regardless of what you're wanting to use your website for, WordPress is a fantastic solution. In my experience, it's the best solution to go with for whatever type of website that you want to use. Now, I got started building websites myself in 1998, and that was long before the days of WordPress. And my first website was a pro wrestling news website. So back in the late 90s, WWF and WCW were the big wrestling federations back then. And my twin brother and I created a website to where we had news and articles on the backstage happenings in the pro wrestling world. Now, we had to create our own content management system, and because WordPress didn't exist back then. And man, I really wish that we had WordPress because it would have saved a lot of development time. And so WordPress, it's free also. You don't have to go pay a license fee for it. You can download it right from WordPress.org. So right here is the WordPress.org website, and again, it's free and open source. So that means you can go up here to download, and you can download it right here. Download WordPress 6.1.1, and it's also got the installation guide. See, again, you don't have to go buy anything, you just download it, and then you get started. Now, in order to use WordPress, you have to have a web host because that's where your WordPress website's going to live. You have to have somewhere you can publish it onto the internet that stores your files. So WordPress has two parts. It's got a web-based files to it, so it stores on the web server, but then all the posts and comments and pages and data, the core of it is stored in a MySQL database. So you have the files that go on the web server, and then you have the database, which actually stores all that information, and that can grow really, really large. Because if you have an e-commerce website and you have 1,000 products, and then you have 10,000 customers, and all who make at least 2 orders or so, that database grows very, very large. And so MySQL allows that to happen and also makes it so your website doesn't get slow because it can store it and sort and allow the files to interact with that database. But you don't have to worry about all that. It's that's what we handle here at NameHero and other web hosts out there. So the good part about WordPress, since it's free and open source, You get the software is free, but open source means the source code is open. So it's not encrypted. If you're a developer out there, you can actually develop customized plugins. You can customize everything, the theme. You can customize even the way the internal core files operate, which really isn't suggested, but you could. And so it's very flexible. So not only do you get this very powerful piece of software for free, you can also modify it. And this is also good because you can see what's going on behind the scenes, so to speak. If you're a little leery, I know me, I'm paranoid. When I'm launching a website or something, I don't want something else happening on the back end, that I don't know about. So if I can see the source code, then I can see very clearly, what's connecting the dots behind the scenes, and then I know my data's safe. And so with WordPress and web hosting, you have to have a host for your WordPress software. Now, there's WordPress specific hosting out there. So that's one of the questions at hand in this video. What's the difference between just WordPress hosting versus traditional web hosting? So that's what I want to try to clear up here a little bit in this video. There's tons of web hosts out there in the world. I mean, so many. When I do competitive research for NameHero, I literally just have to limit myself to looking at 10 because, there's thousands of web hosts, all shapes and sizes all around the globe. Some offer just WordPress hosting. Some offer just regular web hosting. Some are shared web hosting. Some are VPS. Some are co-location. So you can get very easily overwhelmed. And also, there's not a one-size-fits-all glove. And I'll try to explain some of the specifics and what I mean behind that. Before I jump into that, though, let's look at really quick an article I found that's really interesting. And this is wedevs.com, and I just Googled this, so I have no affiliation with this publication here. But WordPress powers up to 30% of all the websites on the internet. So it's got a 60% of the market share. The point of me sharing this is to let you know that WordPress is not only a free open source source code and very powerful, it powers a good portion of the websites you see every day. You can see here many heavy hitters such as eBay, Sony, GM, UPS, Forbes, CNN, Reuters, the New York Times, Samsung, IBM, and TechCrunch all use WordPress as their blogging platform. So, it's not just small businesses and individuals. Even very, very large companies are using WordPress. So that should let you know that, if your website is small, you're just getting started, then great, WordPress is a perfect solution. But if you're even a large business or even a Fortune 500 company, WordPress can power those too. So I think it's important to look at the scale of things when you're building a website. Back to my pro wrestling website in those early days, our website grew from just a hobby website. My twin brother and I, 13 years old, 1998, I knew code, so I knew how to code my own application. But as the site got popular, I had to revise that code a whole bunch, to make it so it wasn't planned to get 10,000 visitors every hour. So I had to modify that code to make it user-friendly. WordPress, it handles all spectrums of that. So you can rest assured when you're picking WordPress that it can handle anything you throw at it. But it's all dependent upon the hosting. So, eBay, Sony, GM, UPS, Forbes, they have to have a lot more hosting horsepower, so to speak, a lot more oomph behind it because they're getting a lot of visitors. They're having a lot of data. And so that's really what makes a big difference inside the hosting here. So first off, I'm going to talk about shared web hosting, and I'm going to use NameHero as an example. Again, the purpose of this video is not a sales-based video. I mean, if you want to use NameHero, great, but there are tons of web hosts, tons of WordPress hosts out there. I always like to encourage our viewers out there, do your own research. I specifically started NameHero because I couldn't find a web host that offered what I needed, despite being thousands of web hosts in every shape and corner, every size across the globe. I couldn't find one that fit my specific needs, being extremely reliable, secure, and easily scalable for an affordable rate. I couldn't find that for my own usage, so I built my own and released it to the public. So there's where NameHero was born. But again, the purpose of this video is not just to sell you on NameHero. It's to highlight the differences between web hosting versus WordPress hosting. But I want to leave that decision up to you. So if this video helps you, great. But feel free to shop around because I get it. You have a decision to make. And that's the great thing about WordPress. Even if you say, hey, I'll try NameHero, with WordPress, you can take your website with you. And that's the biggest thing that for me, and being a business owner for 2 decades now, an online business owner, web hosts come and go sometimes. The web host I used in 1998, it's long gone. And so using WordPress, you own the files, you own the database, and you can pick those up at any time and take them with you. It's not held hostage. So I think that's the difference between like the page builders out there, your Wixes and Squarespaces, your GoDaddy page builders. Those tools, they own your website. So, like the Wix page builder, the Squarespace page builder, you can only use those files there. If you want to leave and go to another provider, you can't because it's their software. And that's also when you're talking about these web hosts out there that operate just WordPress hosting. One thing I recommend checking if you're going to go with one of those is to make sure that if you decide that you want to move your site elsewhere, that you get to take those files with you. I know some providers do, some providers don't. Some providers give you access to the files, some don't. So make sure you do check that, because again, that's the most powerful thing about WordPress is it's free, it's open source, but it's also your files, it's your database. You can take that, if it doesn't work out at whatever web host. So at NameHero, this is our shared hosting plans. So we don't call this WordPress hosting. We call it our just basic web hosting packages. And these are all built on our high-speed cloud, powered over our own data center here in Kansas City. And the goal behind NameHero was to be able to provide a web hosting package that was affordable. You can see start at $269 a month. This is paid 3 years. All up to $1198 a month, paid 3 years. They can power websites of all shapes and sizes. That's not extremely expensive, because that was the problem I couldn't solve. My father owned a self-storage business back in the day in West Virginia, and he had a website based off WordPress, and he used HostGator for many years to host that website. Well, HostGator started to have a lot of downtime, and he couldn't get support for it. And so he was running into issues each month. His customer relationship management system allowed his customers to log into his WordPress website, and they could pay their monthly rent for their self-storage. The problem he was having is HostGator was having so much downtime. When his customers went to pay their bill, they couldn't access his site, couldn't pay their bill, so he was losing money. They were getting their units locked up because they couldn't pay their bill, and that's where he had a big mess, right? And so that was the good thing. He was able to pick up his website, and he moved it over to NameHero. When I started NameHero, that was really what gave me that idea to start NameHero. It's because I wanted to look at small businesses and individuals that needed high-speed quality web hosting that was online, secure, but also that could scale if you need more resources. And so that's the purpose of our packages here. Now, if you're looking for just WordPress hosting, a lot of times you're limited to just that. You can only host your WordPress website, the files and database of WordPress. You don't have email. So if you want an email box at your domain, so like if Ryan at NameHero.com, like I couldn't host that or couldn't use a WordPress provider to power that email address. If I wanted to host just a basic flat HTML page, or I'm a programmer, so I do write my own PHP code, and I couldn't host that on my WordPress hosting provider. So WordPress hosting, when you hear that a lot in this industry, it's more of niche specific, that the only thing you can host on that package is WordPress. Whereas these shared hosting packages at NameHero, you can host WordPress, you can host multiple versions or multiple instances of WordPress, multiple websites of WordPress. But then if you want to add a bulletin board discussion forum, or if you want to add a wiki, you can do that as well. That's not WordPress based. If you want to have email addresses, you also can host your email. So that's the big difference in all of this, in WordPress versus web hosting versus shared hosting. But I also will get into a little bit more. So these being shared web hosting, this is where you're getting the more affordable rate, because you're sharing a cloud instance with other WordPress customers. But at NameHero, we isolate it off using technology. So you have your own, what's called cage file system. Your files are in its own cage. And so that provides you like with isolation. So it's like a mini VPS for those that are a little techie. It's like your own mini server, so to speak, to where your files and website and email addresses live. So even though you're sharing like a physical server, it's partitioned in a way to where it's dedicated space for you, but it's limited in terms of RAM And we also limit in terms of files. So you'll see we have unlimited storage, gigabyte, megabyte wise. So if you have like a ton of or large image files or videos, that doesn't count against your usage, but the number of files does. And so like the average WordPress file count, it's like maybe 8,000 files or maybe even less than that, 4,000 files when it's all said and done, like average website that's fully functional. So these packages differentiate between that. So like you can have 250,000 files on the starter, 250,000 files on the plus. The Turbo and Business allow for 500,000. Very rarely at NameHero do we see customers reach these limits. And these also count against files for emails. So the times I see customers at NameHero that reach the file or inode limit's what it's called, but I think file is an easier word for those that aren't as technical. Most of the time when people reach that limit, it's because they're hosting their email with us at NameHero, and they have like a spam inbox, a spam box to all the junk email goes to, and they're not clearing it out every 30 days. And so most often when they reach that limit, they'll hit up support saying, hey, what's the deal? Like I'm over my inode usage. And support will go in and say, hey, you've got a spam box full, and the customer will delete it, clear it out, and then boom, they've got plenty of room left. So that's a limitation. And also the amount of RAM. So RAM is memory, just like in your computer. If you remember the computers back in the day that had 256 megabytes of RAM, that's not a whole lot. So for our web hosting, though, we've got a 1 gig, 2 gig, 3, and 4. So the more RAM, the more memory is allocated to that account or to that package, and so that makes your website load faster. If you're getting a lot of traffic, it's going to hog more memory. It's going to hog more CPU cores too. And so the bigger the package, the more those cores you have access to. And so, for example, the starter cloud. People always ask, how many visitors can I host on the starter cloud? Well, it's dependent on a couple things. What's your website doing? If your website's like an informational blog, if visitors are coming to your site, your WordPress site, and they're going to read a blog post, and then that's all they're doing, you can read a blog post and they're going to maybe share it on Facebook or Twitter, it's not going to use near as much resources if your website's an e-commerce website and customers are coming and they're registering for an account, making a purchase, and have their own user interface and all that. That's going to use a lot more resources than just the blog. So first off, you have to look at what's my website going to do? Am I going to have information that people read, or is it going to be a full-fledged e-commerce website, or is it a combination of both? So you have to look at that. Then you look at, well, how many visitors do I expect, or how many visitors am I currently getting? So like our starter cloud, if you're going to reach a couple hundred visitors a day, starter cloud's going to be just fine. If you're going to start to get to 300, 400, 500 visitors a day, you want to start looking more towards these. If you're going to be reaching that 1,000 visitors a day, you definitely want to look towards your Turbo or even your business, especially if you're doing like 1,000 to 2,000 visitors a day that are e-commerce. You certainly want to look at our business cloud. And even so, that if you have like a lot of products and a lot of orders, then you might want to start looking at our VPSs. And so let's hit on that really quick. Our VPSs, much like our web hosting accounts, they're all they differentiate in the amount of RAM they have. However, these have dedicated CPU cores, and so you're actually allocated full 2 CPU cores and 2 gigs of dedicated RAM. So with our web hosting packages, that's limited if you actually hit that RAM, and there's other customers on that same box that are sharing those resources. Now, they can only use up the amount that's allocated to their package. With a VPS, the entire root file system for that entire operating system, for that entire package, is allocated to just you. So you do get that higher performance because of that. You're getting that dedicated CPU power. And so the big hitters here, we're talking about like these big Fortune 500 companies, they're using a couple different cloud instances to host theirs. So for example, towards the latter years, before I started NameHero, I was still operating my pro wrestling website like in the mid 2000s, and we were reaching 30 to 60,000 visitors a day. And so we had several of these type of servers, 8 gig cloud VPSs that provided service. So we had like 3 of these for the web files, and then we had 2 for the database. And that's how we operate here at NameHero. As you know, the NameHero website itself, it's not WordPress either. We do have a WordPress blog, which I'll touch on in a second. But the NameHero website itself, we have tens of thousands of customers across the globe every day that's coming here, registering for accounts and buying hosting, and they're using our client interface to access their web hosting packages. They're submitting support tickets, and also our website's facilitating the creation of these packages, as well as handling suspensions if someone doesn't pay, or even terminations if someone cancels. So we have to have a much larger infrastructure to power our website. So we actually run on 3 different VPSs for our the file front, and then we have 2 primary and a replica database server. So like the NameHero database is on a dedicated cloud instance for its database, and then it has a fully redundant replica. So in case that master database would fail, then that slave VPS database will kick over. And then the 3 web instances are load balanced. So depending on where you are in this world, you might hit any of those 3, but they all connect back to that database. So it gets a little complicated, when you get really popular. But the great news is, we have solutions for all that at NameHero. We do have some WordPress instances here we host that power hundreds of thousands of visitors every day. It just gets a little bit more than what's displayed on the front end of this website, but you can certainly do it. I would say, though, that 90% of our customers that come to NameHero, they start right here with our web hosting packages, because that was another goal of mine when I started NameHero. Is with my websites, my pro wrestling site, it got big, but I'm notorious for starting new websites. I've had several different businesses over my 2 decades working online, and when I started a new business, I didn't want to go out the gates and start paying. Gosh, this is after the discount. If I pay month to month, $87 a month. I didn't want to have to pay that for a brand new website for a brand new business, and so that's why at NameHero, you can start with any of these. And you can start the starter cloud, package for one website, and then as you start to reach these limits, you can scale it up, to the plus, then to the turbo, then to the business. And then if you outgrow the business cloud, if you're really using up all that 4 gigs of RAM, we can easily move you over to the VPS line, and we can start scaling up for your traffic. So that's where all of these packages, they can power WordPress, but it's all based on, one, what's your website doing? Are you an informational-based website? Is your visitors just coming to your site to read the site, or are they interacting with it, such as registering for an account, posting on a bulletin board, or is it e-commerce? Are they registering an account then placing orders? Because that's more RAM, more resources usage. And then the second part of that is how many visitors are you already getting, or how many visitors do you expect? So most individuals and small businesses, I recommend the Turbo Cloud, and that's why by far it's our most popular web hosting package at NameHero, because it gives you really an even balance of all the features at NameHero. You can host unlimited websites, and so me being an entrepreneur, I'm kind of drawn to that type of package because yes, got one website, but maybe I start another business one day and need another website, and I don't want to go buy more hosting. So that's why most people will choose this. And those that have businesses that are already very established, and especially those that are facilitating a lot of e-commerce, they go right over here and they go to the 6 gig VPS. And so those are our 2 most popular hosting packages at NameHero. The Turbo Cloud for 90% individuals and small businesses alike. They'll start here. Those that come to the VPS line, they're specifically looking for it because they know they're going to use more resources. And then we also have our reseller hosting at NameHero. That's a whole other subject for another video. But what we see a lot of this is we have a lot of agencies that work with NameHero. So we have a marketing agency I know very well here in Kansas City, and they provide WordPress hosting to their customers. They have customers that come on to their marketing agency, and they develop their website and their banners and all their marketing for their businesses. I can't specifically say what businesses they are for privacy reasons, but they actually offer them like all that creation and then provide the hosting on top of it, white labeled to their business. So they use our reseller hosting to do that. So if you're a WordPress designer, or maybe you're a web developer or whatnot, and you have customers that you want to offer them high speed quality WordPress hosting, that's what our reseller hosting packages are for. Okay, so that kind of gives you an overview. So let's kind of recap here before we go any further, because I want to show you how WordPress is installed, just so you know what it looks like. If you've never installed WordPress, I'm going to walk you through it and show you a real-world example of what WordPress looks like. But to back us up here, we looked at what is WordPress hosting versus web hosting. So WordPress hosting, that's a specific niche of web hosting. So web hosting is a more broader term. WordPress is very specific. A lot of times, a lot of providers out there that offer just WordPress hosting, it is what it says it is. It's hosting for that WordPress instance, the files, and the database. A lot of those providers, they do automatic WordPress updates, and they're very. A lot of them are very strict on, there's no extra files. You couldn't host a wiki or another application on their infrastructure, just WordPress. If you want to do emails or you have your domain emails, you couldn't do that at WordPress hosting providers. I don't think any of them that I know off the top of my head allow that. Whereas web hosting is a broader term, so you can use WordPress on any of these web hosting packages, but you can also do your email addresses, your email boxes. You can add other applications aside from WordPress, so it's more flexible. You have more flexibility. You have, a lot of times too with web hosting, you have more accessibility to the packages and as a whole. You have full access. You can see the WordPress files yourself. I know some of the WordPress hosting providers out there, they don't allow you access to see the actual files. You can just see like the WordPress admin page. So I think that's the big difference between them. At NameHero, we've talked around this solution early on when I first started it. WordPress hosting, managed WordPress hosting was the big, all the buzz when I started NameHero in 2015. And so many people asked me, Ryan, why don't you start NameHero just as a WordPress host? And I really didn't want to put myself in that corner to where the only thing we provide hosting for was WordPress, because I wanted that flexibility. I looked at my dad's case with his self-storage business. He by far needed email boxes, and he didn't want to go pay Gmail, Google Apps, $5.95 per user for his business email. Because it just adds up, right? He didn't have to pay Google Apps. He didn't have to go pay for hosting. So he could come to NameHero, buy one of our web hosting packages here, power his WordPress site, and then power his email boxes for himself. He had a couple employees, he had an accounting person, and that way it was all one place. He could do the domain, he could do the hosting, he could have his emails, one spot, one bill, and it was very simple for him. So that was the goal behind NameHero, is to create that one spot for other people like him that had that same issue. And same with me. For 2 decades, I've operated online businesses, and they had no brick and mortar piece to them. There was no building you went to for any of my businesses. They were all online based. And so I never wanted to be locked into just a specific application, such as WordPress. I wanted to make sure if I want to have an ad server running, so if it were to do advertising, I could do that. Wikis, forums, bulletin boards, other applications. So web hosting is a more broader term, yet I could, right now I could go in with our development team, and I could say starter WordPress hosting, plus WordPress hosting, turbo WordPress hosting, business WordPress hosting, because it's relevant, right? But these packages are more flexible than that. I would say though, like 95% of our customers at NameHero, they've either have used WordPress or do use WordPress in some capacity or another. So WordPress is certainly, and we looked at it here, it's powering it's got 60% of the market, powering 30% of all websites out there. And I would vow it's even more than that. I feel like I looked at a survey not too long ago that had this number even higher, because there's a lot of WordPress out there. If I go up to NameHero, I'll show you, we use WordPress too on our blog here. So you can see here, this is WordPress itself too, that powers our blog. And so that's a good example of not being just married to WordPress. Is our website here. This is not WordPress, but this is. But if I was hosting NameHero at just a WordPress hosting provider, I couldn't have our other files for our CRM, our customer relationship management software. It couldn't exist on the same space as WordPress. Okay, so that's a tremendous difference. If you're shopping around for WordPress hosting, make sure you look at stuff like that. Like if you're only going to use WordPress, great. But if you're going to need another application that needs hosting, keep in mind if you go with the WordPress only or WordPress hosting provider that just allows WordPress files and databases, you're locked into just that. You would have to go out and buy more hosting later on. So that's one big thing to keep into consideration. Okay, so now we know what WordPress is. We know where to get WordPress, the files of it. You can download this right now and look at it. And we also know who uses WordPress. And by now, you should have a really good overview of what type of package that you're looking at. If you're looking for WordPress hosting, on what you should use for your site. Again, I'd say 90% of people watching this video, 90% of people at NameHero, I recommend starting here, on the Turbo Cloud. Now, if your budget's tight, if you're brand new, if you're like I was at 13 years old and you have to ask for your mom and dad to sign up for hosting for you because you don't have a credit card yet, Starter Cloud, that's what it's here for. It's for the startups or beginners or just getting going. And same with Plus, a little bit more flexibility, but again, most customers start here. And then if you're having a more popular site, someone like my dad that has email addresses and he's relying on the website to power customers so they can pay their bill, Business Cloud is for that. And then again, our VPS line, those that have really popular sites, and if you can, the good thing about these VPS is that you can start with this 6 gig VPS, and you start getting a lot of your traffic onto it. You could easily expand this, so I could buy a 6 gig, spin it up, use it, and then if I start getting too much traffic, or maybe Black Friday is coming around the corner in November, and I know I'll be bombarded with orders, I could easily spin up a 2 gig or a 4 gig, and I could cluster these together. That's another video. Not going to do that in this one, but we make it very easy at NameHero to run high availability clusters like that. So you could take your 6 gig, attach a 2 gig to it, run your database on this 2 gig, run just your web files here, or you could keep your main server as your 6 gig and then load balance across a couple 2 gigs or maybe even just a 4 gig or even an 8 gig. So there's all kinds of things you can do, if you're going to grow. But if you're an enterprise, you want to look more towards the VPS line. Okay, so let me log into, I'm going to log into my account here at NameHero so I can show you what WordPress looks like, how you would go about installing it, and kind of working on it here at NameHero. So let me grab my password. Got it on my clipboard on my other screen here. Oops. All right, here's my demo account. Let's log in, take a look. Okay, so if you work with us here at NameHero, this is what our dashboard looks like. I'm going to go to My Cloud. I've got several different example services or demo services, so to speak. Let's sort by active. Okay, so let's look at keydiets.com right here. This is going to be my demo. Okay, so this is my demo, and I've got the Business Cloud on here. It doesn't matter if you have our Business, Turbo, Plus, Starter. They all look the same in this interface here. So it doesn't matter what package you have, you're going to look the same here if you're following along or want to watch how to install WordPress. So I'm going to click this Login to cPanel. This is where I can go manage WordPress. And so again, regardless of what package you have, your backend will look like this. And you can see I've got 2 websites on my demo one here. And it's using remember I talked about those files limits, that inodes. I'm allowed 500,000 on the Business Cloud. I'm using 11,000. And so this is a couple different WordPress installs, and I'll show you. If I go up here to the top left, you'll see WordPress Manager. Click it. Oh, I've got 3. So I've got 3 WordPress installs. Now these don't have any customizations on them, so they don't have like a lot of plugins or theme sets. So that's why my file usage is at that 11,000. But still, you can see I've got 500,000 I can use. I got a long way to go before I think about that. So let's look at here. What I want to do is, first off, I think I showed a video of this. I'm going to remove this installation. Remove. So I'm just going to do some housekeeping before I get started. Basically, I just removed a WordPress installation here. Turn to WordPress management. Okay, so I'm going to use the domain. Actually, we'll just do this one here, so it's my main one. Remove. I'm going to use the domain Key Diets. I think that one's still connected. Let's check it, make sure. Yes. Okay. So let's remove it because I'm going to start it fresh so I can demonstrate that in this video. Return to WordPress management. Okay. So I want to install WordPress for the first time. Say I just bought my hosting package and set it up and I want to install WordPress. So I already told you, you can go here to WordPress and download the files. So if I click this, see, it's already downloaded now on my computer. The files are. And then I would upload those and whatnot. Well, we try to keep that easier for you at NameHero. Just click install. My domain's Key Diets. Okay, so this is my demo domain. I've already set it up, so I'll walk through that in another video. I just want to show you how to install WordPress itself. If I want to install it in a subdirectory, you see this, it says in directory. What is it? So remember, NameHero, our blog, our WordPress is at /blog. So WordPress lives there. If you want to have WordPress be your main website, then you want to leave that empty. So like at NameHero, WordPress is in blog, so it'd be /blog. If you just want your website to show when you go to your website, keydiets.com, you leave that blank. So that, for most people, I think that are watching this want to use WordPress for their whole website, so just leave that blank. Just choose what version. Always use the latest version of WordPress. We verified that by looking here. The current version is 6.1.1. And that makes sure your website's safe and secure using the newest files. The reason why these older files are on there is really for development or testing purposes. I would not recommend going to 4.9. I wouldn't do that. Go to the latest and greatest. If you already have a WordPress website, say you're at another provider and you're looking to move to NameHero, I could see that. I could see you using an older version to bring over your current website at another provider and then upgrading it. That would make sense. But besides that, if you're doing a new install, you always want to use the newest. Okay, so we have a couple options to fill out here. If I go to quick install, let's see, this is the quick install. Keep it quick and easy. You can modify this stuff like site name and site description. You can change that later. WordPress has a multi-site option, and so a lot of the managed WordPress providers, they use that. And the fact that they have one big giant WordPress install, and then when customers sign up for their platform, they kind of carve out a child account or a child installation of that. And so that's like the WordPress multi-site suite, or if you have like a bunch of sites in your own network, say like CNN, for example, they've got a United States site, they've got a Canadian site, and that would be like separate WordPress installs for those. So that's what multi-site is. That's pretty complex, and unless you're specifically knowing what you're going to do with that, it's really get confusing. So I wouldn't recommend that. I wouldn't recommend disabling the cron unless you've been told to. Admin account, this is the important one. So WordPress, you're going to have your own interface when you install WordPress, regardless of you use shared hosting, dedicated hosting, VPS hosting, or a managed WordPress provider. They all have the same WordPress backend, and so you need a username and password for that. We automatically create random strings here at NameHero. The worst thing you could do is use admin password. If you did this, your site would be compromised. I'd give it a couple hours, maybe a day max, and someone's going to be into it. So don't do that. I like to use, you can use your name, maybe some digits here. You do 2023 even, just to make it, so it's not obvious, even though your username is going to be public anyway. It's just, you don't want to use admin. Bad. Click the key and generate a unique one. I always, click this once, click it twice, and then paste the combo of the two. Because I like it to be 100-100. This is one of the most important yet easiest security things you can do for your website, especially WordPress. Make your password really hard. People that don't, they kind of ask for it getting compromised. Because WordPress has a back end that you can access on any computer unless you lock it down, which again, I've done that at NameHero, but that's a conversation for another video. But let's say, if I'm working on my website on this computer I'm on right now, let's say I go to visit my family, which lives 1,000 miles away, and I bring a computer. Let's say I didn't bring a computer, and I need to access and work on my website at their house. I go to their computer and access the back end to work on my site, as long as I had the right username and password. So that's why you want to make that so strong. Make this email something that you get to. I use mine. In case you lock yourself out, you can recover it. I speak English. WordPress has tons of different languages, so choose what's applicable to you. There's some plugin sets. Feel free to choose these if you want. I don't, I add plugins later. So WordPress, it's got its base files, like the core files. But the real cool thing about WordPress is they allow third-party developers. So there's a plugin for everything. As I mentioned earlier, if you have a plumbing website and you wanted to book appointments for your plumbing business, you could install a plugin from a third-party vendor and do just that. If you have a restaurant and you want to accept reservations, there's a plugin for that. If you operate an e-commerce website, there's a plugin suite called WooCommerce, which again I'll go through in another video. You can install that suite of plugins, which allows the facilitation of printing the shipping labels. Well, first off, collecting the credit card payments securely, right? Allowing your customer to come to your site, input their credit card number securely, sending that over to Stripe or your merchant processor or PayPal. You get paid, but then it goes into your WordPress platform, generates a shipping label, so you can easily, every day you run your batch report, you print out your orders, and it prints out those labels, and you put them on the packages and so forth and so on. So there's plugins that do everything. That's the most powerful thing about WordPress is these plugins. But these are just some example ones that come up here. You can add these in later. Advanced options, I don't recommend messing with these, especially if it's your first time. I do like automatic upgrading my themes and plugins, but I like to do that in a different screen, not on install. There are some themes. So again, WordPress has got its default, and that's what I've shown you here. This is like their default. I think they call this 2023 theme. It's really horrible, isn't it? I think it's just so bland. I deleted it. So that's what this is here. It's good for testing purposes, though. But just like the plugins, there are fantastic WordPress theme developers out there. Some are free. These are all free. They're out there. If I go to Show All Themes, and these are free and come with your NameHero account. If you sign up at NameHero, a lot of other hosting providers though have free themes too. So feel free to choose one of these, or you can go out and search, get on Google, start searching, plumbing themes for my plumbing business, WordPress website. You're going to find a ton. Some cost money, some don't. Look at the reviews, see what makes the most sense budget-wise. But if you're just starting out, you can choose one of these here because they're free. Like if I was going to create a hosting company, I'm going to select the theme for the heck of it. That's what I'll install my demo with. Okay, then if you have a partner or a developer or someone else in your business, you could send them information about your install. And this doesn't send the password. This just says the plugin or the files for WordPress were installed in this directory. Again, if you have like a technical person, especially if you're a business, they might want that stuff. So you can send it to them. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, so now this is installing WordPress. Just takes a little bit here to run through its workflow. So this is downloading those files that I downloaded on WordPress earlier automatically for me, and it's installing my site. It's creating the database. So all WordPress here, it says installation guide. It just did that for you. So see here, all the stuff that you have to do: download and extract, create database and user, use PHP myadmin, yada yada yada. It did all that automatically. So that's why I like this tool here, is it's done. So now I've got my website, Key Diets. Ooh, cool. Look. So that was free. Pretty cool, right? For hosting. Get a plan. I'm on a plan. That doesn't work yet. So you can see, it doesn't look like a WordPress blog, right? It looks like a full-on, fully functional website. It's got a blog to it. It's interesting. I'm wondering. Oh, this is a different site. Okay. Ignore that one. Contact, about, home. That looks pretty good, right? So see, if I wanted to, I could put old NameHero at the top and start getting orders through this site. It doesn't look bad at all. And it was free. I wonder if this works. No. I'd have to hook all that stuff up. Obviously you have to go customize it. So that's what the next part is you have your administrative URL. So if I go to keydiets.com/wpadmin, it's going to automatically log me in because I'm coming from here. Now, if I was going and not logged in, then I would have to log in. So let me just show that. So if I went to WP admin here, you can see here's the back end to it. And so that's why I said you want to create a really strong password. I call it Argray 2023. There. Okay, so now I'm in my back end. And so this is what I was talking about earlier, that if I wanted to edit my website and I'm not on my computer where I did this, I can do this anywhere. And so you'll see, first off, updates. There's always updates that come out if you've got a new install. You want to keep those updated because that's how these things get compromised if the software behind it's not constantly updated. You can run into security troubles. Okay, so this is the back end. I don't have to spend a lot of time on this video, like going through all the specifics of it, but you can see the front end of the website. Close. Where do we go here? Here. Okay, so if I want to edit like this page here, if I go to Pages, All Pages, Home Page, Edit. So you can see there's the editor that pops up, and there's this little demo. So if you've never used WordPress, I recommend reading through some of these to help you out here. But you can see your site doesn't include support for the page layer lock, keep as HTML. Okay, so this one's a little bit of an older. Where do we go? I think I just deleted it. Wow. Calm down, Ryan. Okay, so what we offer. Okay, so let's get rid of some of this demo text. Update. Let's go back over to this bad boy. Refresh. And I just broke it. Okay, it's a bad example there. So now if I go back here to revisions, I'll restore it. And I just messed it up. Thought it was going to be quick to restore, but it's not. Go figure, that's how it goes. All right, let's go look at the About page. So this is where you go to edit your site. And again, I just got moving way too fast and I messed up mine. But this is where we make edits to it. So if I wanted to add another page, if I wanted to modify my current pages, this is where it's done. And again, I have no idea how I just messed that one up that quick. Let's welcome you all. Test. Update. View page. There we go. All right, now we're making some progress here. So this is where the pages are edited themselves inside of here. And so now you can see, since I'm in here, I just click Edit Page, and I can continue to edit it here. So if I'm logged out, you won't have this top bar here to where you can actually edit your website. Okay, and so that's what makes it so user-friendly, is you don't have to go view code to go edit your site. Everything's done inside the WordPress admin area. So let's go back on into here. All right, so that's how we make edits. So first off, we got our updates. We kind of covered that. Post. Important more. So my blog here, let's look here. Okay, here's a blog post. Importance of firewall in the internet world. Man, isn't that the truth? Firewalls are really important. So this is the blog here that's on it. If I wanted to type a blog post, this is where I would go to do it. Ooh, layer 2 versus 3. Man, there's some awesome nerd stuff on here. Well, I don't have the text on it. But so I can operate a blog in my post, but then my pages are my selling pages for my website. So see, back in the early days when WordPress first started, it was just a blogging platform. Now it's so much more than that, because it can power your entire website. So that's really important to note about WordPress. Not just a blogging platform anymore, full-force content management system. Okay, so we've got the pages and posts in WordPress. We've got media, so these are the images you see. If you want to upload pictures to your site, you do it right here. Select them and upload them. Comments, and this is more for the blog, if people leave comments. Comments aren't that popular anymore in 2023. Nowadays, most everyone goes to Facebook or Twitter to get on their soapbox. They don't do a lot of it on the comment section. We got our appearance. So, how we chose that theme right in the beginning. If I wanted to change it to something else, I do it here. I can click Add New and go back through that flow I had earlier. If I want to change the look of my website, I can do it right here. So that's the cool thing. You don't have to know any code. And again, all these are free here. You don't have to go buy in these themes. You can just click Activate or Install and use any of these. And you got the customization thing. This thing's a little cumbersome to use. Again, I don't know what I did on the front page. I messed it up good. But this is where you go to edit certain stuff on the design as a whole, your customization. WordPress has some widgets. So like on here, this has got one for recent posts and comments. I think it's pulling these into right here. It's like these are widgets here, so you can rearrange and drag and drop those. Again, the purpose of this video is more to explain the hosting, but I just want to give an overview of what that back end looks like for WordPress. The last thing I want to cover though on this video is the plugins, because this is where you really see WordPress come alive. So remember, I made the reference of like the appointment setter. One thing I really like to recommend to people is search plugins. I like WordPress login security right here. This one right here. This way you can add two-factor authentication to your website. So I click activate and login security. So here I can scan this with my smartphone, and I use Google Authenticator on my iPhone. It's an app. And I scan this, and then so now when I go to log in to the back end of WordPress, when I go to WP Admin, it'll ask me for my 6-digit code from Google Authenticator. So if you get nothing else out of this video and you have WordPress, please install that. You'll do yourself such a big favor by enabling two-factor on your WordPress admin. I can't tell you how much you'll do for security-wise. But there is plugins for everything. That's one I recommend. One thing about plugins, like don't just add a plugin unless you have a good reason for it. You know, login security, that's a really good reason. Another one I like for performance is called Lightspeed. Oh, where to go? Add new, sorry. So at NameHero, we use Lightspeed web servers. They're a lot faster, up to 20 times faster than traditional Apache, but I'll save you the sales pitch. But Lightspeed cache, it'll automatically cache your pages. So content such as your images, your CSS and JavaScript, and if that means nothing to you, basically it's going to make your site load a lot faster, like a rocket. Install now, activate. Okay, so Lightspeed cache, and then it's got all kinds of options in there. But as this bad boy gets to running, it's going to show you how much faster it's making your website. I recommend doing that. I've got videos that go through like page optimization and improving your scores and stuff. But those two plugins, Login Security and Lightspeed Cache, I start my websites with those because they keep it fast and they keep it safe. And these work in conjunction with the technology we have at NameHero. So it's like it just kind of ties everything in together to what we're already doing here at NameHero in terms of performance, security, and site speed. It just gets a little bit more granular by adding these things to your WordPress dashboard. Okay, so that's about wraps this tutorial up. I do want to highlight one last thing though, since we are talking about WordPress hosting. So I just went back to my main cPanel dashboard. And once again, I get here by going to my NameHero user interface, clicking cPanel. And you can see in here, I've got like email accounts. It's like if I wanted to set up email, I could do this here. So like create, if I wanted to create Ryan@keydiets.com, generate me a secure password. Here, create. Now I've got Ryan@keydiets.com, and I can go to connect devices, and I can go set up my iOS devices like my Mac, my MacBook, or my Windows Live, or I could use this information to set up my iPhone, and I can go to here, check email, and I can go to Roundcube, open, and see I've got a web-based email. So all my emails are in here now, so I can go start writing emails. So this is a major difference to choosing a web hosting package over a WordPress hosting only provider, as you have full emails. And you can see like what, 1 minute I created that. Everything works together. So with just a WordPress host, you couldn't do that. You also have many other options in here, such as, well, here's all like the billing stuff. Files. If I want to look at my files, remember the good thing about WordPress is I can see the exact files. I can go into the file manager or file explorer, have you, and I can see here's my files right here to WordPress. So see, if I click delete, it would delete my whole website. If I click download, which I could do, where is it? I've got to zip them up. But if I wanted to download like a couple of these files, so I can start downloading my files right in there. You know, I can see my files. That's the important thing for me. I want to be able to see my files. Same thing with my databases. If I go to databases here, I can see here's my WordPress databases. And remember, I've got another installation there. So if I wanted to download this, I could do that. If I go to here, go like to PHP MyAdmin. That's kind of getting in the weeds a little bit. But so if I go into PHP MyAdmin, I can actually see my databases. So here's the database, like all the pages and information and files where it pulls all the information. Like, for example, let's go to the one I just created, options. See, look, Key Diets, I just created all this. You know, I can see the actual database. If I go to post, I can see those posts in there. Something about seeing exactly, you know, what is my information is important to me. So, you know, if I wanted to export here, I could dump my whole database. Actually, that's the post table. But I could export my whole database. Select what I want to import. Browse my computer. No, I want to export everything. Boom. So see, I just downloaded my whole database, and if I didn't want to use NameHero anymore, I'd take that database and go to elsewhere, right? I've got all my files. That's the great thing about WordPress and using it in conjunction with web hosting. Your files, your database, take it with you, download it, and it's yours. Put it on your computer. Keep a copy on your computer. It's safe, right? So that's what I love about WordPress. It's flexible. I'm not married to NameHero by any means here. If I wanted to go somewhere else, I could go somewhere else. So that's what I really, really love about WordPress. We got some security options here. You can see we've got WordPress, obviously, but if I wanted to install like an ad server or Joomla, I could do that. So there's other things I could do on my hosting. So like Revive ad server here. So if I wanted, just the same way I installed WordPress, if I wanted to install an ad server, so I could go run ads or whatnot, or have an ad server for my website, I could install this. So I was using basic or just a WordPress hosting provider. This is not an option to me. So that's the difference. You have more flexibility with web hosting than you would just specific WordPress hosting. You don't have that same flexibility, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Last thing I'll say before we get off here is WordPress updates. So let's go back to cPanel, go back to WordPress Manager, manage my site here. Give me there. Up to date. So you can see my site's up to date here, but if it wasn't, I can update it here. So if my WordPress website was out of date, if I need to update it, I'd have an option on here to where I could run the update in here. I can set it to auto update. I like to do this on the minor versions. The major versions I like to do manually. If you're gonna create your website one day today and you're never gonna log back in for another year, update them all because your site will be secure that way. But if you're like me and you log in every day, you can run those updates yourself. If you want to stage your website, so that's a big one. If I wanted to change my design and people are going to my site I just created here and they're buying stuff, I wouldn't want to change my design on the live site. So I could go to staging and I could create a copy of my website, new. We're just going to call this Skidites new. And there's a bunch of stuff in here. Obviously I want to disable the search engines, and I don't have to worry about naming it. Create staging. Sorry, my wife's blowing me up. Probably need to call her in a little bit. A little past time here on my video. But anyways, I want to get this done before I get back to her here. So you can see here, this is an exact replica of my current site, and I even got a different admin URL here. So it created a copy of my live site, and it put it on a subfolder or staging directory. So I go change the design here, and it doesn't change my live site. That way it doesn't interrupt my visitors. So you can see now I've selected this, and now if I go to my blog here, well, I didn't get it changed yet. Let's go back over here. Themes. Appearance themes. Not doing very good with my activate. Theme activated. Visit site. There. Kinda. All right, we got some of it off there. Since I do have widgets set up, I think that's where we're right into our hang up here, is we're seeing these widgets still. From the way I had this other one set up. So I still need to go in and modify it. My point being, though, is if I go to here, my live site, it's not going to be interrupted by these changes. I don't know why this is going here. So my live site is still here. It's not. It's operating off a completely different database than my staging layer that I just created. So it's running two different instances. Is really what I'm trying to get across here. So that way you're not interrupting your live site. So you have those features and flexibility versus then trying to work on your live site. And so you can see here I've got my staging site, my live site. And I can manage them all here, and then when I'm done with this, when I'm done staging, I can push this to live actually. See, push to live. If I'm happy with my changes, I could push them in, or I could just delete it, which I want to delete because I don't want to have multiple instances running that's insecure. So let's remove installation, done. And that's how it's done. All right, so now I hope that this video has helped you explain. I'm going to summarize here because we did talk about a lot of stuff. First off, WordPress. It's free and open source. Let me try to get back to my Wikipedia. It's free and open source. It powers 30% of the internet, I'd say probably even more. It powers websites of all shapes and sizes, from individual blogs to websites that reach 1 or 2 people a day, all the way up to heavy hitters such as eBay, Sony, GM, UPS, Forbes, CNN, NameHero. We use it for our blog too. So WordPress can power websites of all shapes and sizes. You have to look at now WordPress hosting. I'm going to be limited to hosting just WordPress. So a lot of the providers out there, if I just Google WordPress hosting, I'm going to get millions and millions and millions of providers out there. But a lot of those, they just allow you to host only WordPress, the files in the database. Web hosting is a more broader term. So a lot of web hosting packages, they allow WordPress hosting, but also things such as email. They give you the ability, if I want to run an other application, my example was the ad server. I can do that. So at NameHero, we have our web hosting packages here. Remember, these are good for about 90% of our customers. Start here because you look at the resources. I know I'm going to use WordPress my site, but now am I going to have an informational based site? Are they coming and reading my blog, or are they doing full-fledged e-commerce? Are they buying products and services? Are they registering on the account? Do I have a shitload of inventory? I guess I'm not supposed to curse in here. I don't care. Do I have a lot of inventory I want to import into my website? And I'm going to be facilitating credit card transactions. If so, I want to look more towards this end because I'm going to need more RAM. If I'm already an established business, I probably want to start here with a VPS. The difference between a VPS and these other hosting packages is these are single tenants. Only you are the only tenant on these devices, on these packages, where the other ones are on a shared infrastructure. So you have more resources to do that heavy lifting. Our customers at NameHero that are reaching 100,000 visitors, yes, we've got a WordPress blog that hosts 100,000 visitors. They're running multiple of these. The great news is you can start with one and you can cluster and kind of come and go as you please with those. These can all scale up in real time. So you can start with the 2 gig, you get hit with the burst of traffic, you go right into our interface, you order the 4 gig, you can spin up in real time to this next one. Same with our web hosting, start with the starter because you're on a budget. Your site grows, gets really popular, maybe you go viral, then you can upgrade it in real time to these next ones here. So I hope that explains it. WordPress hosting is just a subcategory of a broader web hosting. I would vouch to say if you're watching this video, 90% of people can start right here. I suggest the Turbo here if you're going with NameHero. We're by far not the only web hosting provider out there. Go do your homework. Check out the reviews. We got tons of reviews here at NameHero. Read what our customers have to say. Go look at other providers. The big one you want to worry about is, can I take my files with me if I'm not satisfied? So whether it be NameHero or you're looking at another provider, you saw me here. Here's my database right here. You can see it. I extracted it and downloaded it. Make sure you can take that with you so you have the flexibility to get your site out if you're not happy. So I hope this video explains the differences between web hosting and WordPress hosting, which one's right for your website. Do your competitive research out there, do your homework. If you like this video, I certainly do appreciate a thumbs up. If you like hearing me explain things in the way I do with WordPress hosting or web hosting in general, I do appreciate the thumbs up. Subscribe, smash that subscribe button at the bottom so you'll be notified when I produce more content coming out soon. If you leave comments, I certainly enjoy seeing those. Even the haters, it's still kind of funny reading some of them. So if you want to be a hater, comment on the video below. If you want to give some feedback, feel free to comment on it too. I'll try my best to get back to those in a timely fashion. If you are using this here at NameHero, or if you need help, please don't leave support stuff in the comments because it won't get a response as fast as if you smash this live chat button here or in our interface here. Go to support and spawn up a new ticket. Our support team's working for you 24/7, 365. Doesn't matter if it's Christmas Day, New Year's morning, New Year's Eve. Doesn't matter if it's 2 or 3 in the morning. We're going to be there. We have we have a team of people working every day, regardless of the time, to help you out when you need us. So feel free to reach out if that's applicable to you. So thanks so much for watching us and hopefully using us here at NameHero.com.